Hello there, welcome once again to our science lesson, the topic responses, but we are looking specifically at the sense organ, the ear. So just to review a little bit, we said that these responses to happen, we must have sense or sensory cells that are specialized to form organs. We have 5 main organs on our bodies that are meant or that are used to achieve various responses to changes in the external environment. We have looked at the eye. We said the eye usually perceives light, and because of perceiving light, it is able to, or we are able to distinguish different objects. Then we have the ear. When you talk of the ear, right now I'm talking, and wherever you are getting whatever I'm saying. It is because of a very important sense organ, the ear. And before we move further, we have said that these sense organs are usually made of sensory cells. These sensory cells are associated together so that they form a sensory organ. So we are going to have many sensory cells. These sensory cells will be grouped together. They are going to be grouped together, and then they form sense organ or sensory organs. So it is these sensory organs that will detect change in the environment. And for specific purposes, the ear detects a change in sound, because the stimuli that will make the sensory cells in the ear to be able to detect the change is actually sound. So if you have the ears, already I've said it is the one that will make you be able to detect sound in the environment. That's not the only function. We can outline at least 2 functions of the ear. As we have already said, one function of the ear is one to perceive sound. To perceive sound. We are going to find out how that one happens in the ear. And for us to do that, we shall go through the parts of the ear. Another role of the ear is to detect change in body balance and posture, and in the process restoring. To detect change in the body balance and posture. This means, for example, if you swirl for some time or you spin for some time and then you stand still, you realize that it is like the world is going round. It is because of the functionalities in the ear that is bringing about such sensation. So we are going to find out how this one happens. When you kneel on one side, you are able to balance, maybe by raising the other part of your leg or spreading your hands. That change in position of the body that will now bring other movements of the body parts so that you can balance. You can balance on one leg or one limb because of the functionalities or mechanisms that are working in the ear. So for us to understand these 2 functions, there is a need for us to know, therefore, some parts of the ear. Now, to know the parts of the ear, I'll do a sketch just to help us get it. Now that is a simple sketch of the ear. The ear is usually divided into three parts. So the first part is the outer ear. The outer ear consists of these structures. One part is this, pinna. Pinna is what you see from outside. So that flappy structure that's made up of cartilage is called the pinna. And then we have an air-filled structure here with air. We call this part as auditory canal. Auditory canal. But inside this auditory canal, we have some other structures like hairs. You're going to find out the role of hairs, and then wax secreting wax secreting glands that are found here. Next to this is tympanic membrane or eardrum. Eardrum is part of the ear called the middle ear. Another name is tympanic membrane. We shall also find out the roles of tympanic membrane. Then there's a tube that rises from, or that comes from, the middle ear to the pharynx. This tube is called Eustachian tube. Eustachian tube. And then again in the middle ear, we have tiny bones that are connected to each other by use of suspensory ligaments. These tiny bones together, they are called ossicles. So we have one bone, second bone, and a third bone. Very small bones in the ear. They are called ear ossicles. But each one of them has a name. So the first one is called malleus. Malleus. The second one is called incus or anvil. And the third one is called steps. But they are also given other names. The other name for malleus is hammer. And incus, the other alternative name is anvil. Anvil. And for steps, it is steer up. Steer up. And then in this middle ear, so the middle ear will be made up of the eardrum, these ear ossicles, the three types, and then we have other parts called, this part is called round window. Round window. There's also another window there called oval window. Oval window. So this part makes the middle ear. Eardrum, Eustachian tube, the ear ossicles, malleus, incus, steps, round window, oval window. They make the middle ear. It is also air-filled. It does not have fluids. But now the remaining part, which is the most basic part of the ear that will perform the two functions of balance and hearing, we have two major parts. But this area is usually filled with, is a labyrinth filled with fluids, filled with two types of fluids. So we have a fluid called the perilymphy and endolymphy. But the specific parts that are here, we have two parts, semicircular canals. Semicircular canals. We have three semicircular canal. We have one there, the other one is here, and the other one is there. They are arranged in different planes. We have the horizontal canal, we have the lateral, you can say this is the lateral vertical canal, and then we have the posterior vertical canal. These three canals are involved in restoring body balance and posture whenever there is a displacement in the body. Then we have a spiral tube consisting of canals, membranes, and sensory cells. So that spiral tube is called the cochlea. The cochlea. Cochlea. That's the correct spelling, cochlea. And then we have a nerve that takes those nerve impulses to the brain for interpretation. We call those nerves as auditory nerves. They are very important because after stimulation of the sensory cells in the ear, that information must be taken to the brain for interpretation. So they take the role of actually transmitting impulses from the inner ear, to the brain for interpretation. And you know the specific part of the brain. You can remember we looked at several types of brains or parts of the brains. The part of the brain for senses, that is sight, for vision, in other words, for hearing, for taste. Remember that part of the brain? We were calling it cerebrum. So these are the major parts. So I've said these two parts, they make the external ear. Pinna and auditory canal, external ear. Inner ear has most of the structures. We have the eardrum, we have Eustachian tube, we have the round window, we have the oval window, and then we have a series of bones, three of them, ear ossicles, malleus, incus, and the steps. The rest of the part is called the inner ear. Inner ear, I've said, is a labyrinth, but this labyrinth is majorly made up of fluids. And in these fluids, we have two structures, semicircular canals. There are three semicircular canals arranged in different positions or in different planes. We have this one horizontal semicircular canal. Then this one is a lateral vertical semicircular canal. This is posterior vertical canal. So we want to look at each of these parts and find out how are they going to help in performing the two functions of the ear. That is perception of sound and also for body balance and posture. So we start with the first part, outer ear. What makes the outer ear? You can remember, we have said we have two parts. Pinna. Pinna makes the outer ear. Look at the structure of a friend or somebody who is close to you. You will see the pinna. The outer part is usually made up of majorly the cartilage. It's not bone. That's why it is able to flex because of the cartilage. But you look at the structure of the pinna, you realize that it is actually funnel shaped. Funnel shaped. Why should it be funnel shaped? So that it can collect sound waves and then deflect it into the auditory canal. So funnel shaped so that it increases surface area for collection of sound waves. Sound waves. After collection and deflection. And deflection into the auditory canal. So it collects and deflects into the auditory canal. That's why it is that way. And then, so it will be collecting and then deflect it into auditory canal. The other part is the auditory canal. Number 2, auditory canal. Also given a name called auditory metas. Auditory metas. So in this canal, it is air-filled. It's an air-filled structure. Air-filled structure, but with some hairs. Some hairs. And then also with cells. Those cells secrete wax. So we have hairs. The role of hairs here is to trap dust particles. Traps dust particles. And then we have waxy secreting cells. Why should they have, or why should it have wax secreting cells? As the description gets, it secretes wax. What is the role of this wax? There are 2 roles. One of them also, wax is going to be involved in trapping of dust and other foreign materials. And other foreign particles. And then another role of wax. Remember, auditory metas, from auditory metas you will go to a double membrane structure, the eardrum. It also makes the eardrum to be flexible so that when we have sound waves hitting the eardrum, it's going to vibrate with ease. So it makes the eardrum maintain flexibility. Makes eardrum maintain flexibility. So those are the major modifications of the auditory canal. But the role of auditory canal, is just one. Major one is to allow transmission of sound waves from the outside or from the atmosphere to the eardrum. Transmission of sound waves from atmosphere to eardrum. Part B, middle ear. Middle ear, for outer ear, we can remind ourselves, we have said is made up of 2, pinna and auditory canal. The description is clear. Then the middle ear, the first part that you encounter from the outer ear in the middle ear is this part, the eardrum. Eardrum. Eardrum is made up of double membrane or epidermis that are held together, or in between the two membrane we have connective tissues. Is made of double epidermis. Epidermis. In between is connective tissue. Is connective tissue. So, in a simplified way, if that is the eardrum, it is made up of two membranes, like that. They are flexible, but in between we have the connective tissues. So this membrane is flexible. It's usually flexible. It's a flexible structure. It's a flexible structure. Why should it be flexible? So that when we have sound waves hitting this structure is going to vibrate. And when it vibrates, it is going to transform sound waves to sound vibration. So it's a flexible structure to vibrate on being hit by sound waves. In so doing, it transforms sound waves to sound vibration, thereby transforming sound waves into sound vibrations. Now, from the eardrum to the rest of the part of the ear, we do not have sound waves. From the eardrum to the ear ossicles, to the round window, to the semicircular canal, the cochlea, the sensory cells in the cochlea, back to the oval window, we do not have sound waves. But the only form of energy that is there is in form of sound vibration. So it is this sound vibration that will cause other mechanisms that will cause hearing. So eardrum, we are saying, is a structure made up of two membranes or two epidermis. But in between these two epidermis is a connective tissue to hold them together. So that, and it's also flexible. Being flexible, when sound waves hit it, it vibrates, and when it vibrates, it transforms sound waves into sound vibrations. The second part is ear ossicles. And the ear ossicles. I've said ear ossicles is a series of tiny bones. It's a series of tiny bones. These tiny bones are usually held together by suspensory ligaments. Suspensory ligaments, held together by suspensory ligaments. And we have already found out those bones, how they appear. The first one is usually malleus, connected to incus, which is connected to steps. We have given alternative names of these ear ossicles. The alternative name of malleus is the hammer, incus is the anvil, and steps is the steer up. Now, to find the role of the ear ossicles, when we have sound vibration from the eardrum, it will be transmitted to the ear ossicles. The first ear ossicle that picks the sound vibration is the malleus, which will vibrate. Malleus vibrates, transfers sound vibration to incus. It vibrates and also transfers sound vibration to steps. As they vibrate, the two things will happen. One of them, which will form the role of ear ossicles, will be amplification. So the role of this ear ossicle is to amplify sound vibration. Amplifies sound vibrations. Amplify sound vibration. Now, why is it that the sound must be amplified? Amplified means making it greater even. If the vibration were small, they become even greater. Why? Because from the middle ear, we are in the middle ear, this sound vibration will go into the inner ear. In the inner ear, we have fluids, but those fluids are denser than air. Because they are denser than air, some of those vibrations may die or may fade. Die in quotes. In other words, may fade. So to maintain that sound as it was in form of sound waves, there must be a way of amplifying the vibration. So one of them is by the ear ossicles. After amplification of these sound waves, sound vibrations that is, there will be now transmission of sound vibration to the oval window via these ear ossicles. So transmits. Another role, transmission of sound vibrations. Transmission of sound vibrations to round window. Transmission of sound vibrations to round window. So it becomes very easy. Ear ossicles is a series of tiny bones held together by suspensory ligaments. And these are the ear ossicles that we are talking about. Their major role is amplification of sound vibration so that sound vibration do not fade while it gets into the inner ear where the liquid is very dense. And then transmission of sound vibration to round window so that now it will let it into the inner ear. But now, sometimes there could be a problem if some things are not in place. This malleus, incus, steps. We have said in between is suspensory ligaments. But again, they are suspended. They are suspended in the inner ear. Suspended in the inner ear by use of some suspensory muscles. One of them is called tensor tympani and the tensor stapedius. So if, let me just show that with a small sketch of the same. If this is the malleus, it will be connected to this. It's connected to this bone. Remember, there are tiny bones. Malleus. we have incus, we have the steps. I'm saying they're held together, they are connected to each other by suspensory ligaments. But now, each of these is suspended in the middle ear by some structures. So those structures are two of them, or some suspensory ligaments. We call them tensor tympani and tensor stapedius. So these two structures are the ones that are suspending the ear ossicles in the middle ear. And they are very important because sometimes the vibration might continue even after the transmission of sound vibration into the middle ear. So to stop that, apart from just holding them, it also stops. It stops further vibration. Otherwise, there will be merging of sounds. I've talked one word, it merges with another one, and then it becomes difficult for perception. So there will be merging of sounds if it's not going to clamp down the vibration. So these two, the tensor tympani and tensor stapedius, usually clamps down further vibrations. This is important so that there is no merging of sounds. Part number 2, 3 of the middle ear we have the round window. On your diagram previously that we have just drawn at the beginning of this lesson, you can identify the round window. Round window is connected or slightly close with the ear ossicle called the steps. So the role of round window is simply to pick sound vibrations from the ear ossicle, the steps, and then it transmits it into the inner ear. This is a thin membrane. It's a thin membrane. And the major role of this is to picks sound vibrations from mid-ear to inner ear. From mid-ear to inner ear. We have other parts. Oval window. Oval window. Now, just like round window, this is also a thin membrane. It's a thin membrane. But it has a slight different from the round window. We have said whatever goes into the middle ear and inner ear is in form of sound vibration. So it will go through the cochlea or the lymphy, the fluid that's found in the inner ear. But now the vibration, remember vibration is a form of energy. It has to get out of the inner ear. Remember we had that place, that is the round window, and then that point, oval window. But now, all vibrations have traveled through. They have to get back to the middle ear, so that now the middle ear will now relieve the inner ear of the pressure from vibration. So the role of oval window simply acts. It allows dissipation. anticipation of sound vibrations. From inner ear. So when we talk of dissipation, simply means relieving, relieves inner ear from the pressure of sound vibration. So why is this important? Why is it that the vibration have gone to the inner ear, they have stimulated the sensory cells, and again they have to get out of the inner ear through the oval window? Because if those vibration continues, they may damage the delicate parts of the labyrinth of the ear. Now look at this situation. You have heard the sound. It has gone into your inner ear, but it continues. That sound continues to be heard. It will even interfere with the rest of perception of other sounds and other words. So there will be a problem. So it has to get out, and it will get out through a tube that we are going to look at, Eustachian tube. Part number 5, Eustachian tube. On our diagram, we have just shown this is the middle ear and then a tube down. So that's the Eustachian tube. It usually leads to pharynx. Remember pharynx, when you are looking at respiratory system, the throat area is the pharynx. So that long continuous tube that ends into the pharynx is called the Eustachian tube. Or leads into pharynx. So what is the role of Eustachian tube? Now, sometimes the pressure in the middle ear, remember that's the middle ear, the pressure in the middle ear, this is outer and then mid ear. The pressure inside the mid ear and outer ear is supposed to be equalized. It's supposed to be the same. But sometimes the outer pressure could be higher. When it is higher, it is pushing on the eardrum. If this scenario continues, the eardrum might be damaged or it can burst. Now, to allow that, or sometimes here we have more pressure than outside. We have more pressure than outside. Still, it will bulge this to that direction. If that one continues for a longer time, the eardrum is going to be damaged. So the Eustachian tubes comes in to equalize pressure between outer and mid ear. But how does this happen? Eustachian tube most of the time is closed. It is closed all time, most of the time. But it can be opened when the air pressure, for example, inside is very high. When pressure in mid-ear is high, it can open. It opens. How does Eustachian tube opens? There are several ways. Through swallowing. When you swallow saliva, when you chew on something, when you sneeze, When you sneeze, the Eustachian tube opens, and the air pressure that was in the mid-ear that was high, it goes down. Now, I want us to look at practical example when you feel that the ear has a lot of pressure. Sometimes you are traveling, maybe in an open vehicle or just in a vehicle. Your body is moving at a high speed together with that one of the so this is the direction of movement. You are here. When you move in that direction, you are moving at the velocity of the vehicle. So the pressure at that point where the vehicle is passing is usually low. But on the sides, air pressure is high. So that air pressure does not just remain on the vehicle, it also gets to your eardrum. It will get into the ear and then pushes this eardrum that direction. So the Eustachian tube will come in to equalize the pressure. You can chew something. You realize that after traveling a long distance, you feel some discomfort in your ears. So what you can do, you can swallow something. You can chew maybe on a ball gum. You swallow the saliva. The Eustachian tube opens to equalize the pressure. So those are the parts that makes the mid-ear. So we can remind ourselves again, we have eardrum, you have Eustachian tube, you have ossicles, ear ossicles, we have round window and oval window. So those 5 structures makes the mid-ear. Now we look at the inner ear. Inner ear. Inner ear. So these 2 parts are majorly air-filled. We have air, we have air. But the inner ear is filled with fluids. Is filled with fluids. We have 2 types of fluids, endolymphy and perilymphy. Endolymphy and perilymphy. The role of those fluids includes transmission of sound vibrations. Sound vibrations from mid or middle ear to inner part of the ear called the cochlea. And then another role of these fluids, they are usually dense. And because they are dense, sometimes the ear will receive very high sound vibrations, sound waves, then sound vibrations. They may damage the delicate part of the inner ear labyrinth. So it's going to absorb the shock, absorbs shocks. Maybe due to very high sound vibrations, intensity of sound vibrations are very high. It may damage the delicate parts of the inner ear. So the fluids will come in handy to absorb the shocks. And then another role, when these fluids are displaced in the inner ear, as we are going to look at the structures, it's going to bring or restore body posture and balance. So in other words, the fluids are displaced. So displacement of fluids or of these fluids brings about restoration of balance and posture. So inner ear has these fluids, yes, but we have very important structures in the inner ear, two of them, that are going to be involved in the functions that we have said. So one of those structure is semicircular canal. Semicircular canals. Semicircular canals, we have three types of semicircular canals. We have that type of semicircular canal and is linked to another semicircular canal and linked to others called, we're going to give the names. So this one is horizontal. Horizontal canal. But the two are vertical. Because the two are vertical, they're also given different name according to how vertical they are. This one is called posterior vertical canal. And this is lateral vertical canal. But all of them play the same role. Semicircular canal are involved in restoring body posture and balance. So how is this purpose achieved? In this semicircular canal, we have sensory cells that are held on structures called the ampulla. So in each of these semicircular canal, we have a structure called ampulla. So on this ampulla is where we have sensory cells. Sensory cells. So we can briefly look at the structure of the ampulla. So if this is semicircular canal, we have a hammer-shaped structure, and on this we have this structure. That structure has sensory cells. So this is a section of semicircular canal. It has fluids, specifically the perilymphy. If your head moves this direction, head is moving this direction, this fluid usually moves opposite direction. This will be the direction of the fluids. Head is moving this direction, fluid is moving the opposite direction. In the process, it disturbs this ampulla. So it's going to go over the ampulla. Ampulla will be displaced in that direction. When the ampulla is displaced in that direction, there will be generation of a nerve impulse. There will be generation of a nerve impulse, and that nerve impulse will travel through these nerves to the auditory nerves, and then to the brain. Specific part of the brain, the one that restores body balance and posture, or involved in bring about body balance and posture. And that part is called cerebellum. Remember, we talked about parts of the brain. For hearing is cerebrum, but for body posture and balance is cerebellum. So it becomes very clear for us how semicircular canals are involved in restoring body posture and balance, because it has structures called ampulla in each of those semicircular canals, such that when the head is displaced in one direction, the fluids will flow in a different direction, therefore displacing the ampulla, and in the process it is going to result to generation of a nerve impulse, which later will travel to the brain, specific part of the brain, cerebellum, and the body balance and posture will be restored. Briefly, something about this semicircular canal. We have said we have the one that is horizontal. When you move up and down, it is the horizontal semicircular canal that is involved. Up, down. And then we have said we have the lateral one. Lateral vertical semicircular canal. So you are moving sideways. When you move sideways, you can go up to a certain point, but you can't go further until you stretch your arms so that you can achieve balance. It is this lateral vertical canal that is being involved. I've said going up and down, maybe you're bending down like that, or moving up and down, is this horizontal that will be involved canal. But sometimes you are going forth and back. Your body balance is not very okay. We have mentioned another one, the posterior vertical canal. Posterior vertical canal. So that is how semicircular canals bring about body balance and posture. How many minutes? Measure. So the remaining part are just in my next lesson. So we have looked at the semicircular canal. We have other parts of the inner ear that we have not touched. In our next lesson, we shall just complete and then try to find out the mechanism of hearing, the mechanism of bringing about the body balance and posture. I hope you have enjoyed the lesson. You can read further as we continue with the topic. Thank you.